Chris Lee Live suggested for me to study fall damage. I kinda took on the challenge, and I wanted to see if there were any trends with this mechanic. To answer this, I made a spreadsheet to record the damages at different heights to notice any trends. Let me make this clear. Damage is not calculated by how far you fall. Instead, it's by your velocity when you land. The more you watch this video, the more this becomes obvious. I'm using units for these tests since A, it's easier to record accurate answers, and B, is it easier to picture 600 units or 1.23 seconds of falling? Please don't say seconds of falling. You're lying. Knowing this, let's go into the damages. The smallest damage you can take is 3 HP at 223 units, which is about short to CT on Dust 2 at some ranges. You may be saying that you've taken a lot more damage falling off there, but this is probably because you're jumping, which adds a lot of damage to your falls, which I go into later. Despite this, there is a small window where you can get the fall damage sound without taking any damage. I'm not sure why this is. In the future, if I analyze velocity with fall damage, I may have the answer, but that's a video for another day. An interesting trend is with units. I would expect damage to be gained gradually, like 1, 2, 3, but instead it goes through these random periods of the same damage. Towards the start of the spreadsheet, 10 units will share the same damage. Then the next range will drop to only 9 units sharing the same damage, but then it will jump to 11, and then it will go back to 10. When you compare long distances, these ranges clearly become longer, usually around 15 units long, showing that damage can become less sensitive to your height over time. Another neat thing is how damage accumulates. Like I said, instead of growing in a constant fashion, it will stay the same amount and then suddenly skip up 3 for every change, except 2 times, where it only went up 2 damage in the first 600 units. Using all of these stats, I attempted to make a formula that can estimate how much damage a certain height will deal. You can find this on the regression and old datasheet. It works great for the first 600 units, but then it quickly spirals out of control. Lastly, the cool thing to note is that there's a damage cap when falling, basically proving in a black box sense that your damage is determined by your velocity. The most damage you will get from falling is 695. This can be achieved in 2 ways. 1. You fall from at least 7,686 units, or B. You keep setting your position while falling so that you don't hit the ground until your velocity in developer mode shows this command. I think this means you've hit CSGO's terminal velocity. Oh, one last thing before I move on. If you want to test this yourself, to replicate real game situations, I believe you have to make your own map. But get and set pause are commands. I tried to use this, but realized this command has different velocity than falling off of a platform, which is common sense, but something I overlooked at the time. Oh, also for future reference, I found out the height coordinate set pause will spawn you an additional 64 units above what you put in. Now onto gameplay. First, let me show you damages in game. This is about 220 units or 3 damage. This is about 10 damage. This is about 19 damage, this is about 30 damage, and lastly, the most damage you can take from falling I believe is here, but it only does 41, which is actually pretty small. Lastly, jumping really hurts. A height that deals 18 falling damage will deal 32 instead. Try not to jump if you can, as it does serious damage. So yeah, I think that's it. This information was a lot more interesting than I thought it would be, and hopefully it was for you too.